Hello everyone, and welcome to my math video explaining how to do question number 60 on the problem set. So without further ado, let's begin. All we're doing is finding the second derivative of each question and plugging in 2 to evaluate that term. So let's get started. For this first question here, all we're having to do is find the derivative of individual terms, right? So what do we do in that situation? Well, we use something called the power rule. And the power rule, all that is we have our x term, we have our a, which represents our exponent, we minus 1 from the exponent, and bring that exponent value down as a multiplier. So what is this going to look like when we find it and we differentiate f prime, or f at x here? All it's going to be equal to is 8x cubed minus 15x squared minus 2. This term doesn't matter because it technically has an exponent of 0, and that 0 comes down and it carries on. So you can exclude constants. That's what I'm getting at here. We do the exact same for f double prime x, or the second derivative, and we get 24x squared minus 30x. That has an exponent of 0 technically, so we can get rid of that term. Now all we have to do is plug this in, and what we should get is 24 times 4 minus 60, right? So all I'm doing is plug 2 in there, which just simply equals 2. If I plug this in my calculator, just to double check, it should be 36. Here we go. Okay, fantastic. Moving on. For this question, we're going to have to use something called the product rule. And what does this look like? Well, let's call this function here g at x. Let's call this function here h at x. And they're multiplying together. Well, to get f prime at x, to get the derivative here, we're simply have to get g prime at x, so the derivative of that first term, multiply that by h at x, plus that by g at x, and then multiply that term by h prime at x. So it's quite just a switcheroo situation here. Rather simple. Without further ado, let's solve this puppy. So what's this going to look like? What's the derivative of this first one? We'll use the power rule in this to determine the derivative. All that's going to look like is 2 times x squared plus 5x minus 1 plus 2x minus 1 times, that's going to be 2x plus 5. So, simplify that down, we get 2x squared plus 10x minus 2 plus 4x squared plus 10x minus 2x minus 5. And that's just simply going to simplify down if we just cross out all the terms here. 6x squared, 10x, 10x, 2x, plus 18x to side 7. There we go. And then simply define the second derivative. Just use the power rule, right? Keep it simple. Power rule is the simplest one. All that's going to be is 12x plus 18. If we plug in 2 for x, that's just 12 times 2 plus 18, which simply equals, I confirm this on my calculator, 42. Boom. Simple. Okay, so moving on, we've got a last question here, which is going to be the quotient rule. And this is all to find the second derivative and how to find second derivatives. So what does this function really look like? Well, keep in mind that this is going to act like the h at x function, and then here is going to act as the g at x function. And you see how they're multiplying? Well, really, you can scrap this and can say that's x there, and x acts as that h at x function. So the quotient rule really looks like this. The derivative of f at x is just simply going to be g prime at x times h at x minus g at x times h prime at x. Really simple, all over h at x squared. So, what's this going to look like? Well, f at x equals 2x squared minus 5 over x. F prime at x is just simply going to be the derivative of the first, which is going to be 4x times x minus 2x squared minus 5, all in brackets, times 1, because that's the derivative of the second term there, all over x squared, which just simplifies down to 4x squared. So that goes there, cancels out, minus 1. So we're going to be looking at negative 2x squared minus 5, or plus 5 over x squared. And then f double prime at x is going to be the exact same situation. We're going to get the derivative of the first here, which is just going to be negative 4x, multiplied by x squared, minus negative 2x squared plus 5, divide that, or multiply that by 2x. over, all that's over x to the power 4. So that just simplifies down to negative 4x cubed plus 4x squared minus 10x over x4. And that further simplifies down, cross those terms out, to negative 10x over x4. So now we plug in 2 into this to evaluate it, and all we're going to get is negative 10 times 2 over 2 to the power 4, which just simply equals negative 20 over 16, which is very simple. That's just negative 1.25. Boom! So we have all our answers there. Hopefully this video explains how to differentiate to the second degree to get the second derivative and what you can do with that by evaluating that. Thank you so much.